The smartest people you will ever meet are eating dinner alone tonight. Not because they failed socially, because they succeeded intellectually. And those two things in this world are almost completely incompatible. Society hands you a script the day you are born: be agreeable, be available, be liked, be warm, smile when it is expected, agree when it is comfortable, belong at all costs to something. Intelligent people take that script, read it in its entirety, understand every mechanism inside it, and quietly set it on fire. What looks like loneliness from the outside is something else entirely from the inside. It is a choice so cold and so precise that most people cannot even recognize it as a choice. They see isolation, they see failure, they see someone who hasn't figured out how to connect. They are wrong about almost everything. Today we are going to examine why. And we are going to do it without the comfortable lies, without the embrace who you are softness, without the participation trophy framing that tells you your isolation is just a personality type and everyone's valid. And here are 5 tips for finding your people. We are going to look at this the way Schopenhauer would, with precision, without mercy, and with the understanding that truth, however brutal, is the only thing that actually sets you free. So let's start with the scene you already know. You are at a table. A dinner, a party, a family gathering, the specific occasion doesn't matter. The room is full. The noise is warm. People are laughing at all. The conversation flows. The glasses refill. Everyone seems to know their lines. And you are there, physically present, eyes open, saying the right things at the right intervals. But somewhere behind your eyes, a completely different program is running. You are watching the social machinery operate. You are mapping the motivations beneath the words. You are noting the insecurities driving the laughter, the validation hunger buried inside every story, the quiet territorial posturing dressed up as casual conversation. You are seeing the architecture of the thing, not just the surface of it. And slowly, almost without choosing to, a wall of glass rises between you and everything in the room. You can see through it perfectly. You can press your hand to it from your side, but no one on the other side notices it is there. They carry on. They move through the room with the ease of people who are simply, genuinely present. And you watch them with a precision that feels like a gift and a curse simultaneously, because you understand exactly what you are watching and you cannot make yourself stop. Have you been in that room before? Not once, not occasionally, your whole life. You have been in rooms full of people who seem to know exactly how to exist among each other. You have sat at tables where everyone else seemed to have received a manual for this that you never got. You have participated in hundreds, maybe thousands of social performances, and you have done it competently, even convincingly, while something inside you counted down the minutes until you could leave and be alone again. And for your entire life, the world has handed you a diagnosis for that experience. Introvert, shy, antisocial, depressed, difficult, not a people person. None of those diagnoses are accurate. They are the assessments of a system that could not understand the phenomenon, so it reached for the nearest available label. The label is wrong. Here is what is actually happening. Why does this happen? Why do highly intelligent people, across cultures, across centuries, across wildly different social and economic circumstances, consistently report lower levels of social satisfaction? Not because they lack opportunity for connection, but because the connection available to them doesn't reach where they actually live. That question deserves a real answer. And the real answer requires us to understand something about intelligence that almost no one explains correctly. What is intelligence actually? Not the measurement of it, not the IQ score or the grade or the degree. The thing itself. What does it actually mean in lived experience to be a highly intelligent person? Intelligence, at its core, is the inability to stop processing. The average mind processes a social interaction on a single layer. What is being said? What is happening in the immediate moment? That is the full transaction. The intelligent mind runs simultaneously on 4, 5, 6, sometimes more layers at once. What is being said? What is not being said? Why this particular thing is being said right now in this room to this person? What the person saying it is afraid of beneath the words? What they need from you in this specific exchange? Whether what they are presenting aligns with what you can observe about their actual behavior. Whether the warmth is genuine or strategic. Whether the question being asked is a real question or a performance of curiosity designed to redirect attention back to themselves. All of this simultaneously in real time, with no ability to turn it off. This is not a skill you developed on purpose. This is not something you chose or cultivated or practiced. It is the default operating mode of a mind built for pattern recognition, running its full program even when the pattern is just a coworker asking how your weekend was. And the cost of that architecture is enormous, because every human interaction carries a staggering amount of data when you are built to process all of it with no filter. Most people wade in a shallow pool. You are standing in the same pool, drowning in a depth they cannot even perceive. And they watch you struggling and they assume you simply don't know how to swim. They offer tips. Smile more, be more open, stop overthinking it. You are not overthinking. You are thinking at full capacity in an environment that was designed for half capacity. Those are not the same problem, and they do not have the same solution. Who understood this first? Who named this with enough precision to be actually useful? Arthur Schopenhauer, a man so brilliant and so impossible to be around that his own mother reportedly told him she could not live in the same house with him any longer. A man who understood the intelligent person's social problem with a clarity that most modern psychology still hasn't fully matched, and with a ruthlessness that modern psychology would never permit itself. Schopenhauer wrote, "A man of great intellect is like a man with a long telescope. He sees what others cannot, but he must always remove it to speak to those around him." He was not speaking in metaphor. He was describing a genuine, structural, mechanical incompatibility. To participate in ordinary social life, the intelligent person must constantly downshift their cognition. They must compress what they actually see into what others can receive. They must translate the complex into the acceptable. They must speak in the frequency the room can hear, which is always, without exception, lower than the frequency their own mind naturally operates on. And they must do this every single time. Every conversation, every obligatory exchange, every casual interaction about the weekend, about the weather, about whatever television show everyone is watching right now. The telescope comes down. It goes back into the bag, and the intelligent person squints at a world that, from their natural vantage point, looks completely different from the one everyone else seems to be in. Daniel Kahneman's research on cognitive load explains precisely what this costs. The brain has a finite resource of deliberate, high-quality mental energy, what Kahneman called System 2 thinking. When that resource is continuously spent on the labor of compressing, translating, and performing normalcy, it is genuinely unavailable for the thinking the intelligent mind actually wants to do. Not metaphorically unavailable, neurologically unavailable. You are spending your best cognitive fuel on a transaction that leaves you with nothing. So the intelligent person leaves social interactions not just emotionally flat, but genuinely depleted, wrung out, hollowed, and they look at the people around them who seem perfectly fine, who are already planning the next gathering, and they wonder with a specific, private bewilderment what they are doing wrong that this costs so much. The answer is nothing. The cost is real. They are simply the only ones paying it. Everyone else left their telescope at home. But is the problem really just energy? Is this purely a resource allocation issue? A logistics problem that a well-managed calendar could partially solve? No, the problem goes deeper than energy. It goes all the way down to the level of appetite. The intelligent mind has a specific hunger that most social environments are structurally incapable of feeding. Not unwilling, incapable. It needs depth. It needs the kind of honesty that most people find threatening. It needs conversations where both people are genuinely willing to be wrong, where an idea can be taken apart and examined without the examination becoming personal, where the purpose of the exchange is truth rather than comfort or status or the maintenance of the social fabric. It needs someone who can look at you and say directly without softening it, "I think you're completely wrong about that," and have it land as the most generous thing they could have offered you. Not an attack, a gift. How often does that happen in your life? Be honest. Look at the actual content of the average social interaction, not the idea of it, not what it is supposed to be in theory, what it actually observably consistently is. It consists primarily of gossip, the social processing of other people's behavior and choices. Complaint, the externalization of frustration with no genuine intention of addressing the source. Performance, the ongoing presentation of a curated version of oneself, adjusted in real time for the audience. And emotional management, the exhausting, constant, invisible labor of monitoring and adjusting to everyone else's feelings in order to keep the environment comfortable and the hierarchy intact. None of this is malicious, understand that clearly. None of the people doing it are villains, they are simply human. Humans are social animals running survival software that is 100,000 years old. The tribe must stay cohesive. The hierarchy must remain legible and relatively stable. The feelings of the group must be managed because a fractured tribe in the environment the brain was built for meant death. This is not stupidity. This is biology. It has worked reliably for an enormous stretch of time. But for the mind that runs on different fuel, this is starvation dressed as a meal. You sit at the table. Every time. You do the work of appearing to be fed. You participate in the gossip and the performance and the management and the careful maintenance of everyone else's comfort. You do this competently, sometimes even enthusiastically, because part of you always hopes that this time the meal will actually arrive. And you leave, every time, with a specific kind of hollow that has nothing to do with physical hunger, and everything to do with a part of you that went the entire evening completely unreached. And after enough years of this, something shifts, quietly, without a dramatic moment. You stop being disappointed. You stop expecting something different. You stop arriving at the table with real hope. And then, gradually, you stop making the reservation at all. You build a life that requires fewer of these transactions. You arrange your time so that the frequency of these necessary but hollow exchanges is minimized as much as your circumstances allow. People observe this from the outside and call it loneliness. They call it withdrawal. They call it a problem. What they are watching is a rational organism that has stopped performing a behavior that has never, not once, produced the outcome it was supposed to produce. But here is the question that everyone arrives at eventually. Why not simply find other intelligent people? Surely the solution is finding the conversations you need rather than suffering through the ones you don't. Surely there are others like you, and the problem ends the moment you find them. And sometimes, briefly, you do find them. Those moments exist. This is not a denial of that. But here is the paradox that almost no one in this conversation ever discusses honestly. The one that makes the intelligent person's social problem genuinely complex rather than just frustrating. What happens when two highly intelligent people get close? They see each other too clearly. The same pattern recognition that makes them unsuited to shallow connection makes them almost unbearably precise in deep connection. Every inconsistency is registered. Every gap between who the person presents themselves as and who they actually are in behavior and values in the small, unguarded moments when the performance slips and the actual person is briefly visible is cataloged. Automatically. Continuously. Without the ability to simply choose not to notice. There is no soft filter available. There is no comfortable blur. The telescope that sees across a room full of strangers sees through the person it loves with the same unrelenting, undiminishing clarity. And what it finds there is what it finds everywhere. A human being. Complicated, contradictory, partly irrational, driven by needs they themselves don't fully understand, and carrying wounds they have not fully acknowledged. Which would be fine, which is simply human, except that the intelligent person also has an acute, calibrated awareness of risk. They know what full exposure costs. They have read the complete terms and conditions of genuine intimacy before signing. And their assessment of the probability that any given person can hold what they find is based on evidence rather than hope. So they maintain a measured distance, closer with some people than others, adjusted constantly. And this distance reads from the outside as emotional unavailability, as coldness, as a person who doesn't let anyone fully in. From the inside, it is not coldness. It is a very precise, ongoing calculation. The cost of full exposure against the real, evidence-based probability that the other person has both the capacity and the willingness to hold what they find without flinching, without pulling away, without trying to manage it back into something more comfortable. Usually the probability is too low, the math doesn't work, and the glass wall stays. Is this unusual? Is this some modern pathology, some product of a specific cultural moment? Or is this a pattern we can observe consistently across the minds we consider the most original in human history? Look at the record. Isaac Newton died without intimate relationships and without close friends. He described human company as occasionally stimulating and ultimately peripheral to the actual work of his life. Ludwig Wittgenstein, arguably the most rigorous philosophical mind of the 20th century, wrote in his private notebooks words that should sound familiar. I cannot make genuine contact with other people. Something always stands in the way. I do not know if it is me or them, or simply the nature of what contact requires. Nikola Tesla spent his final years in a hotel room, his closest companion a pigeon with a broken wing, conducting work that was decades ahead of anything his contemporaries could follow. Immanuel Kant structured his entire daily existence with a precision that left almost no space for unpredictable human intrusion. Franz Kafka described himself as fundamentally unreachable and wrote about that unreachability with a specificity that suggests he understood it completely. Emily Dickinson spent decades in voluntary withdrawal that the people around her could neither understand nor penetrate. This is not a list of broken people. This is not a collection of cautionary tales. This is a pattern, a consistent, historically verifiable pattern of specific cognitive profiles, finding the full cost of deep social integration. Two porcupine's dilemma. On a cold winter night, porcupines huddle together for warmth, but their quills pierce each other and they are forced apart. They are trapped in permanent negotiation between freezing and isolation and bleeding and intimacy. They never fully solve it. They simply manage the distance, close enough to not freeze, far enough to not bleed. And they live their entire lives in that careful, unresolved middle space. The intelligent person is a porcupine in a world of creatures with no quills, not because they are dangerous, because the contact that others find effortless and natural is, for them, structurally, unavoidably costly. The closer the contact, the higher the cost, and a mind that is accurate about cost will eventually arrive at an optimal distance and stay there, not because it gives up on warmth, because it is honest about the math. Now we need to go somewhere harder, the part of this conversation that most people avoid because it is the most uncomfortable. How much of your isolation is structural, and how much of it is actually armor? How much is a genuine, calibrated response to a real incompatibility between your mind and the social environments available to you? And how much of it is a wound that has calcified over years into a philosophy? These are not the same thing, and treating them as the same is the most expensive mistake you can make. There is a specific psychological move that highly intelligent people make after being misunderstood a sufficient number of times. After enough conversations where they reached for real depth and found the other person couldn't go there. After enough moments of genuine self-disclosure that landed badly. After enough experiences of being too much, too intense, too honest, too precise, too everything for the people they were trying to be close to. They begin to preemptively withdraw. They stop initiating before being rejected. They evaluate people as incapable of real depth without actually giving those people an opportunity to prove otherwise. They use their own pattern recognition as a prophylactic against disappointment, running probability assessments on every potential connection and preemptively declaring the outcome unfavorable. They choose the clean, predictable, manageable pain of solitude over the messy, humiliating, unpredictable pain of being seen and found wanting. And then, and this is the part that makes it so difficult to address, they build an intellectual architecture around it. They give it a name, discernment, selectivity, protecting their energy, being realistic about human nature. They dress the fear in philosophy, and then they defend the philosophy with the same rigorous intelligence they apply to everything else. And because they are genuinely intelligent, the defense is very good. It is airtight. It sounds, even to them, exactly like wisdom. It is sometimes wisdom. That is what makes it so hard to examine honestly. Sometimes the withdrawal really is the right call. Sometimes the probability assessment really is accurate and the wall really is necessary. But sometimes, more often than the intelligent person usually admits, it is fear wearing a philosopher's mask. And a philosopher's mask is the most convincing disguise fear has ever found. Schopenhauer would not be gentle with you here. He would say that mistaking cowardice for wisdom is one of the most consistent and least examined errors of a sharp mind. Because a sharp mind is extraordinarily good at constructing arguments for positions it was going to hold anyway. It is extraordinarily good at reverse engineering justifications for choices it made on emotional grounds, and then labeling those justifications rational. The question you have to sit with, the one that has no comfortable answer and no philosophical escape hatch, is this. Is your solitude chosen from fullness? Are you alone because you are genuinely sufficient, because you have built a life that feeds the parts of you that most need to be fed, because you have chosen this from a position of abundance and not scarcity? Or are you alone because at some point, after enough disappointments, you decided that the probability of being truly received was too low to justify the exposure? Sovereign solitude is chosen from strength, It is the solitude of a mind that has tested what is available, found most of it inadequate, and decided that this configuration is the correct one. Defended isolation is chosen from the anticipation of pain. It is the solitude of a mind that is protecting a wound it has never fully examined. One is freedom. The other is a prison that has been very carefully and very intelligently decorated to look like freedom. Only you know which one you are in. And the honest answer to that question is the beginning of everything that actually matters. What happens inside the defended isolation that no one talks about openly? Here is what happens. You become very, very good at being alone. So good at it that over time, the thought of disrupting the arrangement begins to produce its own quiet anxiety. You build routines that work. You develop a relationship with your own mind that is genuinely satisfying, genuinely stimulating, genuinely sufficient for long stretches at a time. You stop missing certain things because you've gone long enough without them that you've stopped being able to feel their absence as absence. You mistake the numbness for peace. And slowly, imperceptibly, the skill of being alone begins to crowd out the skill of being with others. The tolerance for the specific discomfort that genuine connection always involves, the unpredictability, the exposure, the friction, the need to accommodate another person's reality with the same care you give your own, begins to decay. Not because you chose that, because disused skills atrophy. That is simply what they do. And then the isolation, which may have begun as a completely rational response to a genuine incompatibility, starts to maintain itself. Not because it is still the best available option, but because it has become the most familiar one. Because the intelligent person has become so efficient at being alone that being with someone feels, by comparison, like a system running at reduced capacity. This is the trap inside the trap. The intelligent person who retreated into solitude for legitimate reasons begins to maintain it for illegitimate ones. And because the mind is excellent at justifying its defaults, it continues constructing arguments for why the default is correct, long past the point where those arguments are fully honest. How do you know if this has happened to you? You know if the prospect of genuine intimacy, not managed warmth, not comfortable social performance, but actual full exposure to someone who sees everything, feels not just uncomfortable but genuinely threatening. You know if you have stopped being disappointed by the quality of connection available and started being relieved by its absence. You know if you have begun. A person who is very skilled at being alone can spend an entire life mistaking the skill for the state. Can spend an entire life being technically functional, technically sufficient, and secretly starving for something they have convinced themselves they no longer need. So what do you actually do with all of this? What is the practical application of everything we have just examined? You do not fix the incompatibility. It is real. It exists. You are not broken because social environments that work for most people drain you. You do not need to become someone who finds small talk nourishing. You do not need to rewire your pattern recognition to see less. You are built a specific way, and that way has real costs, and accepting that without performing grief about it is the beginning of something useful. You do not lower the standard. This is the advice that sounds generous and actually isn't. Be more open, they say. Give people a chance. Stop being so selective. This advice is given by people who have never experienced what it costs in specific tangible terms to maintain deep relationships with people who cannot meet you where you actually are. Do not lower the standard. The standard is not arrogance. The standard is accuracy. What you do instead is this. You raise the minimum. You become radically, unapologetically selective about where you place your social energy. And then you invest fully in the rare occasions when someone clears the bar. Most people accept whatever social connection is available and call it intimacy. They fill the word friendship with people they would not choose if choosing freely. They call proximity belonging. The intelligent person cannot do this without paying a price that compounds over years into something that looks from the outside like bitterness and feels from the inside like exhaustion. So instead of forcing something from situations that structurally cannot deliver it, you stop forcing. You stop attending things out of obligation. You stop maintaining relationships out of guilt. You stop spending your best cognitive hours on people who will never understand what those hours cost. And in the space that this creates, something becomes possible that was not possible before. One conversation that actually goes somewhere real is worth 20 that go nowhere comfortable. One person willing to disagree with you honestly is worth 100 who agree with you to keep the peace. One silence shared with someone who doesn't need to fill it is worth a dinner party of performed warmth. One relationship where the glass wall can come down, even partially, even temporarily, is worth years of managed distance. The goal is not more connection. The goal is less noise. Specifically, the goal is to reduce the noise until when something real comes into the room with you, you are quiet enough to actually hear it. There is one more lie the culture tells about this that needs to be dismantled before we finish. It tells you that if you are lonely, you have failed at being human. That isolation is always a symptom of damage, that the fully realized human being is fundamentally social, fundamentally embedded in a warm network of reciprocal connection, fundamentally belonging, that the mountain is always better shared. This is a lie designed by and for people who have never been on the mountain. The cultural pressure toward sociability is not neutral. It is not a simple observation about human nature. It is a mechanism. A highly intelligent, solitary person is a person who is difficult to manage. They are not easily sold things because they see through the sales structure. They are not easily moved by consensus because they assess consensus rather than absorbing it. They are not easily kept in line by the threat of social exclusion because they have already excluded themselves and found that they can survive it. A person who has made genuine peace with solitude is, from the perspective of every system that depends on social pressure to function, significantly harder to control than a person who is terrified of being alone. This is not a conspiracy. It is simply an observation about incentive structures, and highly intelligent people understand incentive structures. The system rewards participation. It rewards the person who stays at the table, who keeps performing belonging, who keeps consuming and agreeing and being available. And it pathologizes the person who steps away from the table to look at it honestly. It gives that person a diagnosis. It tells them they need to be fixed. They do not need to be fixed. They need to be honest about what they are built for. And then they need to build their life in alignment with that, regardless of whether the building looks the way they were told a life should look. Here is the thing that most intelligent people spend their entire lives refusing to fully accept. You may never have the social life the culture insisted you should want. The large circle, the constant availability, the warm, effortless belonging, the feeling of being fully received by any room you walk into. That may simply not be the structure your mind is built for. And if you spend your life pursuing a form of connection you are fundamentally not equipped to sustain, you will not only fail at it. You will damage, slowly and methodically, and in ways too subtle to notice until they are nearly irreversible, the thing that defines you. The depth, the precision, the clarity, the capacity for original thought that most of the people around you will never access and never understand. The thing that the world simultaneously resents and desperately depends on. That is what you trade, transaction by transaction, year by year, when you spend your life performing a sociability that runs directly against your own architecture. Schopenhauer wrote, "A man can be himself only so long as he is alone, and if he does not love solitude, he does not love freedom, for it is only when he is alone that he is truly free." Read that again and hear it correctly. That is not consolation. That is not the philosophical equivalent of telling yourself everything happens for a reason. That is a precise, empirically consistent, historically verified description of the conditions under which a specific type of mind actually functions at its full capacity. Schopenhauer was not romanticizing loneliness. He was doing what he always did. He was looking at the world without flinching and describing exactly what he found. The loneliness is real. Do not perform acceptance of it that you do not feel. Do not dress the ache in philosophy and call it peace when it isn't yet. The absence of the connection you actually want. The conversation that goes where conversations usually won't. The closeness that doesn't require you to become smaller. That absence is a real loss. Sit with that first. And then, from inside that honest acknowledgement, look at what actually remains. In the solitude that exists after you stop performing grief about it, there is something harder and quieter and more durable than anything a crowded room has ever offered. There is your own mind, operating at its full capacity, for once without the constant tax of translation and compression and performance. There is the work that only silence makes possible. There is the thinking that only arrives when the noise is gone long enough for it to surface. And occasionally, rarely, against all reasonable probability, there is a person who crosses the distance without you having to lower the wall. Someone who doesn't need you to remove the telescope. Someone who has built their own and points it in the same direction. Those people exist. There are fewer of them than you wish there were. They are harder to find and harder to keep than everything you were told connection was supposed to be. But they are the only ones worth building toward. Keep the wall for everyone else. Keep the standard, keep the silence. Keep your mind intact. Keep your depth intact. Those are not consolations. They are assets. They are the most expensive things you own, and the world will spend your entire life trying to get you to give them away for something cheaper. Don't. If this opened something in you, if it named something you have been carrying without a name for years, something that every conversation about introversion and self-care and personality types never managed to actually touch, then understand this. This is only what I can show publicly. The deeper architecture of the intelligent mind, the specific psychological patterns governing how you identify the difference between sovereign solitude and defended isolation in your own life, how to protect your cognition from the people who are quietly draining it, how to convert the specific pain of being built differently into something that actually works for you rather than against you. Those conversations exist behind the join button. The algorithm will not let me take it further here without consequences I am not willing to accept. If you are still here, you already know what you are. Subscribe if you haven't, but if you want what is underneath this, click join and step into the architect level. What is there goes where this cannot. Most won't look, that is the point.